Um, um, Another question. What would you say is John's abilities like from your personal knowledge of being with him in real life?
So his abilities, like I said, I mentioned the astral at one point, but I call it etch a sketching as a joke. He can like take away certain feelings if you're feeling them, or he can manipulate things around him. He, like I said, he also has an uncanny sense of timing. I've noticed. Um, really, he can do a lot of things, and some things I still don't even know what he can do, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
Um, have you ever, like, since he's a magician and exorcist, I know he helped me with the beings and stuff, and I seen him do like exorcist stuff. Was there any instance when he was with you, meanwhile you two dated and were close, that he would have some sort of exorcism up or some job like that?
Yeah, quite often. He actually taught me how to do it too, to a degree. Um, but he has plenty of jobs, and he would take care of them. He also gets pulled sometime in astral. So wherever he's needed, he gets kind of pulled there, and usually that can be for an exorcism. So it was a very common thing when we were together.
Would you say that exorcism jobs of his, like when he has a job to do it and stuff like that, would you say it gets dangerous or alike? Like is it scary actually?
I mean, it's in the name. Exorcism basically is with demonic influence. Um, so it can be a range of things, but normally, yes, it's pretty scary, I would imagine. And what I've seen, it would be yes. For example, I had a roommate at one point you may or may not hear from, but she got demonic influence with her at one point, and she actually felt it like pull her up and then slam her down when she was in sleep. So yeah, it can be pretty scary.
Hmm. Yeah. Another question. What would you say is John's biggest power or skill or the ability of his? Like, what would you put on, let's say, like top first or top three from knowing him?
Well, I wouldn't say power per se because a lot of it I haven't physically seen in person. Um, However, I've noticed that I know things of him, and really, he has a resilience when it comes to things. Um, like just in general, like constantly going against him, constantly, basically trying to break him, and he doesn't really give in. He keeps going. He keeps pushing because that's what you know everything needs him to be essentially. Um, and so that would be one of what I would consider one of his strongest powers. Like I said, he's also very good at astral projecting, being multiple places, and while doing that, protecting those around him and really caring a lot about that. Like I said, he also does exorcism and seals and things like that. So he's really good at like protection, offensive magic, defensive magic. Really, you name it, he can do it pretty much. It wouldn't surprise me if he could just snap like in the comics and fire would come out of his fingers at the one point. I think actually he can do that if I remember correctly. So yeah, he can do a lot of things.
Yeah. That's actually funny. Like the snap of finger and the fire. Like I bet he would pull that out like just randomly when he wants to smoke. He just like does like chicks. When he lost his lighter. Talking of his lighter, he lost it again. But yeah, anyways, another question, might be last question. What would you say about his mind? Like, what would you say his intelligence is like? The way his mind works. Have you ever like witnessed him using his like intelligence or mind or those kind of iconic wits when facing things, or just the way that he is?
I mean, of course, I dated him. He's very intelligent. It's actually one of the most incredible things about him, actually. Um, he's very clever. He's also probably going to hear this, and it's going to inflate his ego to the size of Kansas. Um, but he's very intelligent, and he uses it well against things. He's very true to his comic form when it comes to things, and he really should learn more about himself, to be perfectly honest. But yes, he's quite intelligent, and it comes out in everyday life as well as just in general with fighting against demonic influence and things like that.
Yeah, I think when he will hear this, he's gonna be really smooth because I'm sure he's gonna see my video. So yeah.
Oh, I'm sure he's going to be quite smug when I he's how I talk about him, but he deserves it because he is a great guy if he just listens to me occasionally. He's also quite stubborn, so there's that too. So make sure you humble him accordingly.
Yeah, there was actually one more question, and I don't know why it just is dysfunctioning and doesn't want me to send the voice message. It's just so strange. It doesn't want me to send the recordings. About his tainted blood, he mentioned he has tainted blood from previous incarnations that come next and next one when he's born. Like born into another life, like coming back to life, incarnating. And he said he gained a lot more this lifetime, that it's double tainted actually. And he said he has gained a lot of other things into his blood, into his system apart from that. That he turned into the catalyst for his power and turned it around and became stronger from it. Instead of things actually, instead of it like meaning to kill him. What's your kind of knowledge on that?
Yeah, so he has a few different types of blood in him. Abaddon was one of them, I believe. I know Antichrist is another one. I've given them nicknames because of, like, due to what they are. He's also had a few other injections that should have killed him but didn't. He uses those to sort of catalyst into his own power as well. Like you said, siphon that energy instead of it siphoning him. But his blood itself is very potent. When I mentioned earlier that they can kind of track his scent per se, it is a lot scent based. Like his people or things in general, when they smell his blood, they tend to get a little cuckoo bananas. And it's because of the odd mixture that's inside of him that he has to deal with. So yeah.
Yeah, about his blood. You mentioned now like his skin and stuff, and things going like fucking bananas on him, um, including people and things. So it's people and entities like in his presence, like when they kind of like smell him or are in his presence, they kind of go crazy. In what kind of way crazy would you say? How does his blood impact, or his presence impact other people and the entities around him when it comes to his energy signature and the scan and the blood, because of the blood stuff?
So he's had several instances where people have been, like, just normal people have been trying to help him, and once they smell his blood, they kind of get a little like obsessive about it. Um, it's basically demon crack. At one point, he was basically being hunted um, because of his smell, because they found it very basically like an aphrodisiac, like a very compelling, like you have to have it and want all of it and like hoard it type of way.
Is there like any incident in particular, the one that comes into your mind the most when it comes to this kind of these incidents and stuff like that? For his energy signature and blood and how you said, compelling kind of effects for people and demons.
I'll give two different examples because to me they are actually. So there was one time where he was very injured and he went to a female doctor, I believe, to get basically patched up from a battle, and she was perfectly normal until she started smelling his blood, and then she got really obsessive about it, which was completely different out of her character originally. So that kind of shows how normal people can kind of have that happen. However, talking about demons and stuff, there was one time where basically he couldn't go anywhere because every demon was basically after his blood because they lusted after it and they wanted to both sleep with him and then kill him at the same time because of his bloodlust. Not his bloodlust, but like the lust they had for his blood.
Now, truly, last question. It was more like, well, you've been around John and John was around you and stuff like that, and you dated, and so it was like regular basis. What would you say is his energy signature like to you? What does it smell like? What does it feel like since you was with him so much?
So his energy signature to me smells like vanilla, notes of caramel and like tea and like whiskey. We got like a deep-bodied whiskey. He also smells like cigarettes. He definitely vanilla, like I said, sandalwood. Also, dragon's blood is a big one. He smells a lot like incense. He's got a warm feeling, um, more like a cozy hug, like if you just come in from a really cold, like snowy day and like get curled up in a blanket and you have like a hot cup of like tea with you. That's what he feels like as far as energy signature goes.
With thank you. Another question that popped in my mind. Sorry, it's so many questions, but yeah. Um, he has this. This is like John's energy and all that kind of stuff. And about the tainted blood, is there any difference to him when, from your kind of experience, if you could tell about his tainted blood, like is there a difference to him, like when it mixes into his blood, or if he has some difficult time with his tainted blood? Was there some instances where it kind of overtook him meanwhile you two dated? Just like in this time frame of knowing each other and being close?
So yeah, there's Damien and then there's Hyde. Both of them I can kind of sense when they mix together. Hyde has a spiky energy. Um, so I mentioned kind of the warm hug for John. Hyde has that same sort of feeling, but like think if like kind of like a chili. Like it's like if you ate chocolate and chili together, like that warm but like feeling. And then Damien is just cold and like dark, essentially. as far as feeling the differences between him. He's more calculated. He's not as soft as the other. Not really soft, because they're not really soft, but like just he's not as he has different ways of showing how he feels about people. We'll put it that way.
You have mentioned being clairaudient and basically seeing and hearing stuff.
I'm driving currently to my parents' house, so if you have any more questions, I can still answer, but I'll be a little more distracted.
Even if you're basically with your mind's eye or basically with your clair stuff, when it kind of like mixes into John's blood, is there any visual difference? Like, do you actually see like Damien over John kind of like stuff? To clarify, Damien is the second blood taint he had from the Antichrist. Hyde is the like him and Spikey from Abaddon, and they both take his form because it's John, but it's not John. It's like they're made from his blood, but they're not like they are outer tainted kind of stuff. Any instance where you've seen actually them surfacing like over John, like on a visual level using your Claire stuff?
Yeah, so, for example, I usually see John with white shirt, red tie, and the trench coat with the messy sort of blonde hair. When he's Hyde, his eyes tend to glow a little bit. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's how I visualize it. His tie also is black, usually around that point. I've noticed that his tie changes colors when he's in different sort of mixes of blood. When Damien comes out, he ends up having just a straight up black trench coat and then no tie, and a little bit more less fluffy hair. It tend to be more in place at that point. So yeah, it's definitely, and it's also, like I said, a bit colder feeling. They all have sort of different feelings around them, I've noticed, as far as like how they appear around me, and like how I'm really good at sensing. Damien actually finds it kind of funny, I think, or his definition of funny, how I can usually tell when he's around versus John. Yeah, I can usually, whenever someone is in, I guess, possessing, for lack of a better word, another person's body, or overlaying that essence on top of that already feeling of that person, I can usually see both. And so, yeah, it kind of flickers between sort of when his blood is mixing. I can see, like, the difference between the two of them. Or three of them, rather. I can also usually tell when one of them is around, because if I'm listening to music, different music plays based on who it is around me, I've noticed.
Yeah, that's interesting thing. So you kind of get like insights and coming in like different ways. Talking of his second tainted blood, who you lot call Damien, has John ever told you a story of how his blood got tainted by Antichrist and what it? Like, if you do like know the story and he told you, would you mind sharing it with us, with kind of like everyone, from your point of view, or what he told you?
Yeah, so if I remember correctly, this is the one that happened in the airport. Basically, he was walking through, and he got injected with a syringe of blood, essentially, from the Antichrist. And it got to the point where like it started taking him over a little bit. There were times where he had to basically tie his hands up at night so that he didn't do things that he shouldn't do. And basically, so he wouldn't kill those around him, or he wouldn't do something against things. Lately, it's getting a little difficult. Like, he actually spent the night in chains, astral chains, um, to prevent him from coming out. So it's a bit like, basically like sun and moon, like John's the sun, and then Damien's the moon, and like the more they mix, the more one eclipses the other. And yeah, so I think it's kind of, you can kind of tell that way, but that's kind of the story that I was told, that I went through an airport and then that he struggled a lot from it, and he's still kind of struggling. So
We have reached the end of the part 3 video interview with THORN, which is the final part. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Post down the questions below for me or for John, especially for John, since next video we will do will be about him answering questions directly on a video. Thank you for watching. Until next time.